Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, May 18th, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-gen. U.S. President Joe Biden has announced that an additional 20 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines will be sent abroad, increasing the total amount of vaccines to be shared by the end of June to 80 million. Tensions between Israel and Gaza continue in the second week. The death toll in Gaza alone surpassed the 200 mark on Monday. However, Israel's prime minister has insisted the attacks must continue. And today marks the 41st anniversary of the Gwangju Democratic Movement. In light of the day, President Moon Jae-in paid tribute to the freedom fighters and stressed May will be the month that uncovers the truth and recovers the honors of the victims. Top story this morning, U.S. has announced its plans to provide a total of 80 million COVID-19 vaccine doses to other countries by the end of June. Now, this includes Biden's previous commitment to share 60 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine with the international community. Bae-eun-ji has our top story.
U.S. President Joe Biden has announced that an additional 20 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines will be sent abroad by the end of June, including for the first time, shots that have been authorized for use in the U.S. This is on top of his previous commitment to share 60 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccines, meaning that a total of 80 million doses will be provided within the coming weeks. Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines are approved for use in the U.S., while AstraZeneca is not.
Rampant disease and death in other countries can destabilize those countries, and pose a risk to us as well. New variants could arise overseas that could put us at greater risk. And we need to help fight the disease around the world to keep us safe here at home and to do the right thing of helping other people. It's the right thing to do.
The announcement comes as the demand for vaccines in the U.S. is declining, and as experts have warned that global vaccine inequality could prolong the pandemic if the coronavirus continues to mutate. With nearly 60% of U.S. adults having received at least one shot, it is well ahead of many nations like Brazil and India. But it is unclear which countries will receive the doses. Biden said the country will not use their vaccines to secure favors from other countries, and said they will work with COVAX, international organizations, and other partners to ensure that the vaccines are delivered in a way that follows the science and the public health data. The White House said that it will announce in the coming days how they will decide where to send the vaccines. Bae-eun-ji, Arirang News.
During his upcoming visit to Washington, President Moon Jae-in has vowed to focus on winning support for South Korea's push to transform itself into a global hub for vaccine production. Now, there are hopes he can ease concerns over vaccine procurement during his summit with President Joe Biden. Our senior Blue House correspondent Kim Min-ji reports.
One of the key topics of discussion at the South Korea-U.S. summit in Washington this Friday will be a vaccine partnership. President Moon Jae-in has vowed to use his talks with President Joe Biden to boost cooperation with the U.S. and use it as an opportunity to develop South Korea as a global vaccine hub.
이번 방미를 백신 협력을 강화하고 백신 생산의 글로벌 허브로 나아가는 계기로 삼겠습니다.
Possible agreements include a vaccine swap, which would mean Seoul receives surplus shots from Washington and gives the same amount back at a later date. Another option is technology transfer, by manufacturing vaccines in South Korea using original U.S. technology. Another key topic that could be on the table is the global semiconductor shortage, with Washington seeking cooperation from Seoul to address the matter. In fact, a South Korean business entourage, which includes representatives from Samsung Group and SK Group, is expected to accompany President Moon. There's speculation that Samsung Electronics, the world's biggest memory chip producer, will unveil plans to build a new chip factory in the U.S. during Moon's visit.
세계 각국은 자국 위주의 공급망 재편에 뛰어들며 치열한 경쟁에 돌입했습니다. 외부 충격에 흔들리지 않을 선제적 투자로 국내 산업 생태계를 더욱 탄탄하게 다지고 글로벌 공급망을 주도해 이 기회를 우리의 것으로 만들어야 합니다.
Last but not least, North Korea. The summit comes as Washington completes its policy review on Pyongyang. Attention will be on whether the leaders can agree on measures to resume dialogue with North Korea during their first face-to-face sit-down and how specific their joint statement will be.
대북 정책을 더욱 긴밀히 조율하여 남과 북, 미국과 북한 사이의 대화를 복원하고 평화협력의 발걸음을 다시 내딛기 위한 길을 찾겠습니다.
Depending on the achievements President Moon brings back from the summit with President Biden, it could give him more leverage in state affairs during the final year of his term. 김민지, 아리랑 뉴스.
The European Commission says 1 in 3 people in the EU have received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. With more vaccines being delivered, the EU aims to vaccinate 70% of the population with at least one dose by July. Now, Germany, meanwhile, will remove its priority limits on who can receive COVID-19 vaccines starting June. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
European Commission spokeswoman Dana Spinant on Monday said 31.8% of the EU population has received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. She says the bloc has been able to ramp up its vaccination rate thanks to millions of doses being delivered in recent weeks. The figure is up from the 27.7% reported last week. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on Monday reiterated the bloc will be able to vaccinate 70% of adults by July, 2 months ahead of schedule. She added the European Medicines Agency will approve use of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for kids aged 12 to 15. German Health Minister Jens Spahn also announced Monday that Germany will remove its priority limits on who can receive COVID-19 vaccines starting June 7th. Prior to the announcement, only those listed as priority groups were eligible to receive most vaccines. However, starting next month, the entire population 16 and above will be eligible for jabs. The country has so far vaccinated 37% of the population with at least one dose. Just over 11% have been fully vaccinated. The head of the WHO on Monday called on vaccine manufacturers to make vaccine doses available to the COVAX facility earlier than planned due to a supply shortfall caused by Indian export disruptions.
While we appreciate the work of AstraZeneca, who have been steadily increasing the speed and volume of their deliveries, we need other manufacturers to follow suit. Pfizer has committed to providing 40 million doses of vaccines with COVAX this year, but the majority of this would be in the second half of 2021. We need doses right now and call on them to bring forward deliveries as soon as possible.
The head of UNICEF on Monday also asked G7 nations to donate supplies as an emergency measure to make up for the shortfall, which is estimated at 140 million doses by the end of May. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Europe's drug regulator has extended the storage limit by up to a month of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in fridges at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius in a bid to boost its rollout. The European Medicines Agency said Monday that this is only recommended for unopened vials after further stability data was submitted by Pfizer and BioNTech. It added the increased flexibility is expected to have a significant impact on planning and logistics for the rollout in the EU. Initially, the EMA had said the vaccine could be kept for up to 5 days in normal fridges, with super cool freezers required for long-term storage. And now to the latest on the coronavirus situation here in South Korea. The nation reported 528 new cases on Tuesday, dropping back into the 500s after a week of higher numbers. Of the new cases, 506 were local and 22 were from overseas. One more patient died of the virus, bringing the death toll to 1,904. Now, on the vaccination front, a total of more than 1 million people have been fully vaccinated as of this morning. The World Economic Forum has canceled its special annual meeting slated to be held in Singapore in August due to pandemic-linked uncertainty. The meeting, also known as the Davos Forum, was postponed by 3 months from May due to global travel restrictions. It will now take place in the first half of 2022. The location and date will be decided in the summer. South Korea is commemorating the 41st anniversary of the pro-democracy movement in Gwangju. For several days from May 18, 1980, hundreds of civilians in the southwestern city were killed, while thousands of others were wounded in protests against the then authoritarian government. Taking to social media Tuesday, President Moon Jae-in said, "May will be the month that uncovers the truth and recovers the honors of the victims." The president recalled how taxi drivers transported the injured to hospital and civilians lined up to donate blood. He said that desire for democracy is the same as the will the nation is showing in the fight against COVID-19. President Moon said the situation in Myanmar reminds him of how South Korea laid the groundwork for democracy and how he wishes the same for Myanmar. In Gwangju, a commemorative event is being held, attended by the new Prime Minister Kim Buk-yeon. And marking the eve of the Gwangju Democracy Movement, citizens gathered again in the southwestern city to remember the sacrifices. Now, this year, the commemorations also highlighted the struggle for democracy in Myanmar. Kim Yeon-sung was there and files us this report.
Back in 1980, thousands of Gwangju citizens poured out to this square to chant for democracy. Now, 41 years later, as they're commemorating their movement, they're also celebrating another cause, the pro-democracy movement in Myanmar.
우리는 마지막 한 사람까지 물러서지 않고 끝까지 싸울 것입니다.
The two movements in Myanmar and Gwangju transcend generations and borders and strike an eerie resemblance.
In the 80s, the military took my husband. I didn't know where he was for 3 months. I heard from another person that he was tortured and beaten so much that his underwear was always soaked red. I hear the same thing is going on in Myanmar, and it just makes me so mad.
The two regions have come together in the fight for democracy. Civilian groups in Gwangju have stepped forward to help Myanmar's movement from afar.
The Burmese people in Gwangju are worried sick about their families in Myanmar because there's no way of contacting them, just like how we were back then. So us mothers wanted to give them hope and courage. We held a press conference and raised funds.
The most painful thing at the time of the May 18th movement was being disconnected from the outside world. So civic groups in Gwangju came together to form the Myanmar Gwangju Solidarity Group to let the international community know about Myanmar's situation and to show Myanmar that we are with them.
In 1980, South Korea's military junta rampaged Gwangju in just 10 days, killing more than 160 people and injuring well over 3,000. But fast forward 41 years. A global survey ranks South Korea as the 23rd most democratic country in the world. In Myanmar, the reported death toll is nearing 800, with civilian protests ongoing for more than 100 days. Gwangju citizens are hoping an end to this violence and for Myanmar's future to be governed by a healthy democracy. Kim Yeon-sung, Arirang News, Gwangju.
The conflict between Israel and Gaza has entered a second week, and the violence is only intensifying, the death toll in Gaza alone surpassing 200. But Australia's Prime Minister insists the attacks have to continue. The international community is pressing both sides to lay down their arms. Our Kim Hyo-san reports.
The Israeli military unleashed another heavy wave of airstrikes on the Gaza Strip Monday, saying that it was targeting a tunnel network used by Hamas. The Israel Defense Forces estimated that it had destroyed about 100 kilometers of underground passageways that it says are used to move weapons and fighters across Gaza. Israel's prime minister says the country will continue with its attacks against Hamas.
Today, a senior Islamic Jihad commander was targeted. We struck at the Hamas naval unit, and we are continuing to strike at underground targets, Hamas's metro, and there are other targets. We will continue to operate as necessary in order to return calm and security to all residents of Israel.
With the two sides continuing to trade fire for over a week, the overall death toll in Gaza has now surpassed 200, with over 1,300 others wounded, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Israel has reported 10 Israelis have died from rockets that have been fired from Gaza toward the country. The violence continues despite calls from the international community to cease hostilities. The leaders of Egypt and France shared strong concerns regarding the escalation of violence in the region, underscoring the absolute need to end the atrocities.
So for me, it comes within the scope of a process of a ceasefire as soon as possible. What we, of course, call for and the building of a possible path towards talks between the various parties involved.
On Sunday, Iran's top diplomat met with Pope Francis, who appealed for calm and global help to open a path of dialogue in the Middle East. Pope Francis stressed that the deaths of children in the latest surge of attacks was, quote, destroying the future. Turkish president also asked Pope Francis to support sanctions against Israel in a phone call urging the pontiff to continue to speak out against the violence. All this comes as Washington is using, quote, quiet and intensive diplomacy to try and halt the escalating conflict between the two sides. Kim Hye-sun, Arirang News.
The United States has imposed sanctions on 16 Myanmar officials and their family members, citing their support for the military government's lethal attacks against the country's pro-democracy movement. Those sanctioned are 4 members of the military junta's State Administration Council, 7 ministers, the chairman of the Military-Controlled Election Commission, and the governor of the Central Bank of Myanmar. Canada and Britain are set to announce similar sanctions of their own. South Korea is famous for its intense work culture, but the atmosphere is changing as people try to find a better work-life balance. Now, some companies are even trying out a 4-day work week, or if not going that far, they're finding other ways to give people more time off. Our Min Soo-Kyun reports.
The 4-day week is picking up momentum in South Korea. Online education platform Eduwil was among the first to adopt the system last year after going through a 6-month trial period in 2019. Now the company is rolling out a 4-day week for their entire staff with no cuts to salaries or benefits. One employee says she feels her life is well balanced due to the extra day off.
I like the fact that my life and work are balanced. I don't have to be overwhelmed with work. The fact that I can work while at the same time living my life and thinking about my future is very appealing.
The company says that a 4-day week hasn't hampered output or productivity. In fact, it has increased job satisfaction and sales.
Sales rose by about 46% last year compared to 2018 before the 4-day week was in place. Even when looking at sales for the past 3 to 4 years, average annual sales grew by about 26%. Also, in terms of job satisfaction, we received a high score of 9.8 last year from our employees.
Other companies have also introduced a partial 4-day week. Both Kakao Games and some of SK Group's affiliates have a 4-day week every other week. Ua Brothers, operator of South Korea's largest food delivery app, is letting its workers take time off every Monday morning.
I have a newborn baby and we have to go for regular checkups, so I usually make my appointments Monday morning. If it were not for the 4.5-day week, I would have to ask for a day off every time.
Many employees prefer a compressed work schedule rather than working 9 to 6 Monday to Friday. In a recent survey of over 1,000 workers, 88.3% said they would like to work 4 days and enjoy a 3-day weekend. But some say that a broad acceptance of a 4-day week may be easier said than done.
The most important thing is whether industries can operate under flexible working hours, but not all can. So there will be different preferences for a 4-day week or a 5-day week, depending on a company's business model or the nature of their work.
Countries are also looking into trim their work week on a national level. Japan is considering granting employees a day off every week, and Spain plans to launch a pilot 4-day week as early as this September. Min Soo-Kyun, Arirang News.
Good morning. It was a breezy day yesterday. Afternoon temperatures remain in the mid-teens in most regions, but the warmth returns as highs will go up 8 to 10 degrees higher this afternoon. But southern provinces will notice warmer highs, but will not be as hot as the central regions. Daegu will be getting up to 23 degrees Celsius, Gwangju at 24 degrees under more clouds. Meanwhile, the Gyeongsang-do provinces and surrounding regions could see some sporadic rainfall during the day under lots of clouds. So UV rays will not be too strong there, but central parts of the country and the west coast and Jeju Island will have very strong UV rays today, so don't forget your sunblock. Air quality will be normal to good nationwide. Early summer weather returns tomorrow, which is Buddha's birthday. The nationwide rain is in the forecast on Thursday, possibly into Friday, but bright skies should return for the weekend. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world. And that will do it for us at this hour on Arirang News. We'll be back at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.